So, Stephen Covey's The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People, it's sold over 25 million copies. And there's a really simple reason why. The wisdom in it is just timeless. But, the big question is always, how do you actually apply it to your life? Like right now. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. Let's dive in and break down these legendary habits into a guide you can actually use. You've met someone like this, right? I'm sure you have. A friend of mine, his grandma had this one favorite story. It was all about how everything used to cost like 2 cents, but now prices are just out of control, and you guessed it, it was all the government's fault. And I'm telling you, this complaint could go on for hours. It's actually the perfect example of what Covey calls a reactive mindset. See, reactive people, they pour all their energy into things they just can't control. But, and this is the huge difference, an effective, proactive person gets it. They realize that even if those complaints are totally valid, they don't actually help. So what do? They shift their focus. They pour all that energy where it actually matters, on the things they can control, like getting better at their job or making their product the best it can be. All right, so this whole journey kicks off with what Covey calls a personal victory. And it's exactly what it sounds like. It's all about mastering yourself first. It's about that shift from depending on other people or outside forces to becoming truly independent. And believe me, this is the foundation for everything else. And that brings us right to the first and honestly the most fundamental habit: be proactive. Now, this is so much more than just, taking initiative. It really means that you and only you are responsible for your life. You're the one in the driver's seat. Your choices are based on your deep down values, not just how you're feeling at the moment or what's going on around you. Okay, so how do you even figure out what those core values are? Well, Covey has this incredibly powerful question, and I want you to really seriously think about this for a second. Imagine you're at a funeral, but it's your funeral. You're there looking on. What do you want to hear people say about you? About the life you lived? Think about it. Do you want to be remembered as a great spouse or parent, or as someone who actually added value to the world? Maybe you want to be known as someone who chose courage when everyone else chose comfort. Now here's the tough part. Look at your life right now. Are your daily actions actually lining up with that vision? Yeah. For most of us, that question really forces you to take a hard look at things. And that exercise right there is a perfect setup for the second habit. Begin with the end in mind. It's brilliant, really. Once you have that clear picture of where you want to end up, you can build everything else around it. It's like creating your own personal mission statement. That becomes your compass, your North Star, for every single decision you make from here on out. All right, let me ask you a question. If I were to ask you right now, what's most important in your life? What would you say? You'd probably say something like, oh, my well-being, or my relationships with my family and friends. And that's great. We all say those are our top priorities. But here's the kicker. Let's get real for a second. Look at how we actually spend our time. I mean, how many of us spend way more time binge watching a show or, organizing random papers than we do actually taking care of our health or investing in our most important relationships? There's often this huge, just horrible disconnect between what we say is important and what our actions show is important. So how do we fix that disconnect? Well, that's where habit 3 comes in. It's the solution. Put first things first. This is all about the discipline, the actual execution of focusing on what truly matters. It means learning to prioritize based on importance, not just whatever feels urgent in the moment. The goal is to make sure that how you spend your day actually reflects your deepest values. Okay, so once you've gotten a handle on those first 3 habits and achieved that personal victory, you're ready to move on to the next stage, the public victory. And this is where we zoom out. This is where we see that real, lasting success is almost never a solo mission. It's all about working effectively with other people. Now, the core idea here really challenges a belief that's, drilled into a lot of us. We're so often taught that life is a zero-sum game, a competition. But Covey's whole point is that for you to win, somebody else absolutely does not have to lose. And this, of course, leads us to habit 4, think win-win. Here's a great example. Imagine 2 authors in the same genre. The competitive win-lose mindset says one should tear the other down. But what if instead they genuinely help each other out? They promote each other's books to their own audiences. What happens? They both sell thousands more copies. It's not a competition. It's collaboration. They both win. That's the power of this mindset. So, how do you actually create these win-win situations? Well, a fantastic place to start is to ask yourself this one simple question before you speak. I mean, think about it like a YouTuber. They could just say, please subscribe, I worked so hard on this. But honestly, who cares? The real question, the one that matters, is does this content offer any value to the viewer, to you? That's the only reason you'd give them your time. And that way of thinking flows perfectly into habit 5. Seek first to understand, then to be understood. Honestly, this is probably the secret to all effective communication. Most of us get it completely backward. Before you can ever offer value, before you can even dream of finding a win-win solution, you have to shut up and genuinely listen. You have to truly get where the other person is coming from first. You know, when most of us think about cooperation, we think of basic math, right? Your effort plus my effort gets us a predictable result. It's simple. 1 + 1 = 2. But what if 1 + 1 could equal 3, or 5, or 10, or even 100? I mean, that's the magic, right? That's what happens when true collaboration goes way beyond simple cooperation and creates something that's totally new and unexpected. And that magical math brings us to habit 6, synergize. It's a fancy word, but the idea is simple. Imagine two people trying to get apples from a tree, but they're both just a little too short. They could give up, or one could get on the other's shoulders, and suddenly they can get all the apples. That's synergy. The whole is so much greater than the sum of its parts. It's about taking different strengths and creating a result that neither person could have ever achieved on their own. All right, last but definitely not least, we come to the habit that really holds all the others together. You can think of this less as another step and more like the engine that powers the entire system. This is all about renewal. Covey tells this great story. There's a guy in the woods, just hacking away at a tree for hours. He's sweating, he's exhausted, he's barely making a dent. His neighbor wanders over, watches for a minute, and offers some pretty simple advice. He says, you know, if you just take a break and sharpen that saw, you'll be able to cut the tree down way faster. And the guy's reply, it's completely nuts, but also shockingly familiar. He looks at his neighbor and says, but sharpening the saw will take time. And it's easy to laugh at that, but let's be honest, we do the exact same thing all the time. And that's habit 7, sharpen the saw. It is all about investing in yourself, in your own biggest asset. How often do we say, I don't have time to work out, or I'm too busy to read a book, or I can't connect with my friends this week? We are literally too busy sawing to sharpen our own saw. But when we neglect these key areas, our physical, mental, emotional, and even spiritual well-being, we just become dull. We become less and less effective. So you see, these aren't just 7 random tips on a checklist. They're all connected. They form this incredible framework for living. And when you actually practice them together, you create what Covey calls an upward spiral of growth. You're constantly learning, you're recommitting, and you're always improving. In the end, effectiveness isn't something you do once. It's a habit you build day after day. So the real question, the one I want to leave you with is, where are you going to start? Of all the saws you have in your life, which one are you going to sharpen first?